What's up, true believers? It is I, the OGGM. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's the 22nd day of November 2022. It's about 64 degrees and sunny and windy here yet again at Site B. You can tell by the sniffles. And once again, it's a day in the week that ends with the letter Y, which means Wizards of the Coast has done something. I think at this point in time, there are now 3 certainties in the universe. 1, gravity will always work. 2, the electromagnetic spectrum exists. 3, Wizards of the Coast will do something stupid. Okay, so this is a follow-up for the churning rumor about the fate of the OGL and how the oppressive dictatorship of the Wizards of the Coast Death Star is going to destroy the OGL and the OSR, leaving the world clean and pure for 1D&D and all the cultists of 5e, despite the fact that, they legally cannot destroy the OGL or the OSR. So yes, the Hasbro police will not be knocking on your door and telling you you're playing D&D wrong. So after this speculation for about 2 weeks in this rumor, Wizards of the Coast has come forward and made an official statement in which they say not a lot of anything. And in their not a lot of saying anything, they have said a lot. Now, in regards to the statements that have come out from Wizards of the Coast the last couple weeks, we can say that while most of us still agree that these are just bizarre and strange and not always make sense, I think we can agree at least some of them are starting to at least sound better. I mean, remember the whole thing I said about Wizards of the Coast get a press secretary? Maybe they finally have. Okay, so regarding to the OGL and the future of the OGL in regard to D&D content with the 1D&D/6th edition in 2024, this is the official statement as of last night. The open game license will continue to evolve, as it has such since the inception. We're too early in the development of 1D&D to give more specifics on the OGL or system reference document of whatever it is 1D&D is going to be in 2024. Now, that goes without saying because we don't know what 1D&D is going to be in 2024. I mean, the commentary survey for 1D&D round 2 ends tomorrow. We haven't even seen playtest 3 yet, much less something resembling even close to a finished product. We've literally seen some rewritten rules and some changes to classes, which may or may not be finalized yet. So we are still in early days for the 1D&D playtest in regards to how many pages the 3 books might actually end up being and how much of that we're going to see. So it goes without saying, Wizards of the Coast, that the SRD for 1D&D can't be commented on since 1D&D doesn't exist yet. But in regards to the specifics of the OGL, well, you can't change that, okay, Wizards of the Coast? You can change how you deal with it, but you cannot change the OGL. It's out there. You can't change it. You can add to it, but you can't change it. So there's the first statement where you're like, there's really no reason to make this statement, so why did you make the statement? Move on. So this is what they're saying. In regards to the OGL and the GSL, the game system license they made that allowed third-party populars to make stuff for 4E and going into 5E. 5E still addresses the GSL and the OGL. And what it's saying basically here, it's saying very little, is that going forward, as the OGL continues to evolve, they will at this point in time, continue to support OGL content made for D&D. Which, of course, D&D is changing, and we still haven't seen the SRD for what 1D&D will eventually look like, because, again, early days. But they're going to continue to support the evolving OGL in regards to D&D. So that's what they said. Well, my friends, I may not be able to comment in any way, shape, or form with any level of accuracy on gaming, as I've been repeatedly told. I may not know the first thing about computers. But if I've learned anything in my long and unusual life, it's how to read between the lines, especially in, is this thing fuzzy or is it my eyes? Well, we'll be able to tell in flashback. Read between the lines, especially, 16 years in the entertainment business and dealing with producers and directors and script writers and corporations and commercials and plausible deniability and all that stuff. Here's what they're saying it sounds like. Okay, now, mind you, this is just my interpretation. It is not fact, so do not misrepresent me in any way, shape, or form. This is just my interpretation of what they're saying based upon my personal experience. Your mileage may vary. What Wizards of the Coast is saying in regards to the OGL /SRD /1D&D /D&D Beyond. Now remember, all this is focused on what's going to be the flagship going forward, D&D Beyond, and the D&D VTT, if it ever actually comes into existence, okay? In regards to print, well, we pretty much know they're not going to be making as much print stuff, and they are very focused on D&D Beyond digital. So in regards to D&D Beyond, OGGM at this point in time could make D&D adjacent product using the current OGL 4.5e and put it up on the DMSGuild or drive-through, or I could put my homebrew content up on D&D Beyond for my very specific campaign. There's a big smudge. That's why everything looks fuzzy. Or I'm just going blind. I can put homebrew content as long as it follows the current OGL and whatever the standards and practices for D&D Beyond and posting homebrew content is. I could do that now. You could do that now. As long as you follow the OGL steps, you could make 5e adjacent material and put it on the DMSGuild, put it on drive-through, put it out there, put it on D&D Beyond and not get in any trouble. As of now. But when they switch over, basically what they're saying is, yes, third party, you can make product for 1D&D as long as it looks, sounds, tastes, smells, and feels like 1D&D and follows specifically to the letter 1D&D, and you sell it through us. If you make a third-party product that doesn't follow specifically the new 1D&D SRD, you will not be able to say it is compatible with 1D&D. Only we can say what is compatible with 1D&D, and it's only going to be stuff we make. If we do support third-party stuff at all, which we may or may not, probably most likely not, again, it has to be stuff we approve of, that we have sanctioned, that fits whatever the current model is, says what we want it to say, and most likely is only associated with D&D Beyond. Third-party content, homebrew stuff, well, again, if you put it on D&D Beyond, as long as it follows to the letter the 1D&D SRD OGL, that's fine, as long as you understand that we get 90% of any money made off of it, and we control it entirely, because that's the other thing. Is once Wizards of the Coast publishes your stuff, it becomes their stuff. So chances are there will still be stuff on DMSGuild, but only insofar as is 1D&D specific follows exactly the 1D&D build, look, SRD, sounds, taste, touch, smells like 1D&D. It is only directly going to be purchased from a third party, so it can only be upgraded to D&D Beyond, and you can't say or do anything that is not in the 1D&D framework. So they will continue to support 1D&D, and they will allow you to put 1D&D content on D&D Beyond. But for 5e content, 4e content, 3e content, 2e content, 1e content, 0e content, anything that falls under the current existing OGL, yeah, you're screwed. You can't make shit anymore. And if you do make shit, you can't put it on D&D Beyond or RVTT. D&D Beyond and RVTT will only run and allow you to use stuff that specifically falls under the new 1D&D SRD that we have 90% control of. And remember, again, anything you put on D&D Beyond or DMSGuild becomes ours. But you'll get that 1%. So I will not be able to make 1D&D content unless I only make it on D&D Beyond. It only looks, smells, tastes, touch like 1D&D on D&D Beyond, which means it's, the variations from the themes probably won't be allowed, which the OGL allows you to do, because basically the OGL says as long as you use armor class, hit points, strength, dex, con, whatever, you can make stuff for 5e. There's certain things you can't use, like big disease grasping hands, but other than that, if it's not a Wizards of the Coast D&D specific, you can use it. Like Mind Flayers. Mind Flayers appear in third-party content, but, even though they're technically owned by Wizards of the Coast, you could make a third-party 5e content that uses Mind Flayers. Going forward, probably not. Because unless, of course, it falls under the very thin 1D&D SRD construct. So if it's in the SRD for 1D&D, when it comes out in 2024, that's fine. You'll probably be allowed to make stuff for it, but it has to look exactly like that, and they will support it. They're not going to support stuff on D&D Beyond anymore for 5e, or 4e, or 3e, or 2e, or 1e. They're not going to support third-party stuff for any of those, or even really 5th edition stuff for, which of course means, that whole backwards compatible thing, again, that's bullshit, all right? It is not going to be backwards compatible, and this is now the third time in a roundabout way Wizards of the Coast has said 1D&D will not be backwards compatible, because they're saying we're not going to support 5e content anymore after 1D&D goes live. Now, does this mean you can't make 5e content anymore, or 4e, or 3e, or 2e, or 1e? That is what certain individuals out there would have you believe. Again, that the oppressive dictatorship of the Wizards of the Coast Death Star is going to destroy the OGL and the OSR and leave OSR elitists like me lying in the post-apocalyptic wastelands, unable to make product. That is what they would have you believe. But notice, Wizards of the Coast is not in any way, shape, or form supporting that fear-mongering. That's not what they're saying. So this is bullshit. This idea that Wizards of the Coast will not allow you to continue to produce stuff following the OGL or for the OSR. That is 100% completely untrue. They cannot stop you from making OSR, OSE, OGL, first edition, second edition, third edition, fourth edition, 3.5, 0 edition stuff. If it's in the OGL, you can use it, you can publish it. You just can't say approved for use with 1D&D. Probably can't say approved for use with 5th edition anymore. You can say for use with the world's most popular tabletop role-playing game. That you can still use. But you can't say approved for use with 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons going forward, because they're not going to support it. All they're going to support once 1D&D goes live is 1D&D. This whole backwards compatible, this whole edition wars are over stuff is bullshit. Wizards of the Coast is clearly stating yet again, as long as we make it, we will support it. If you make it, it has to follow within this line, and it has to be only 1D&D, and you can only use the stuff we say you can use. Which means if you want to use a homebrew monster, you can't. And if you try and put the homebrew shit up on D&D Beyond, they own it. That is what they're saying. That is what I believe. And again, I could be wrong. So please do not misrepresent me and say, oh, well, the OGGM said this. Because no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying my interpretation, my opinion, based upon my personal experience with how this shit works, is this is just another layer of plausible deniability. This is another layer of covering their ass. This is another layer of them saying, this is what we're actually going to do, guys, without them actually saying, this is what we're going to do. Oh, yeah, we'll support D&D as long as it's our D&D, not yours. Your D&D, I mean, we can't stop you from running it. We can't stop you from playing it. We can't stop you from using the rules from 5e, 4e, 3e, 2e, 1e, 0e. We can't stop you from using any of the public domain stuff like armor class, hit points, doppelgangers, whatever. That shit's out there. We can't make it go away. But if it falls under the new SRD, absolutely, we can stop you from using it. And we can also say, no, you can't say your product is approved for use with 1D&D. But we can't stop you from saying my product is for use with the world's most popular tabletop role-playing game. Which, by the way, it's not the world's most popular tabletop role-playing game. Call of Cthulhu is the world's most popular tabletop role-playing game. But that doesn't sound really good on a D&D product. Anyways, there you go. So, in closing, if you were worried about this rumor that is being generated by these 5e fear-mongers, that the OSR is dead, the OGL is dead, that Wizards of the Coast is no longer going to support the OGL, that is completely, utterly, and totally incorrect. Link down below to the news article. You can also see Tanker talking about it last night on Tanker's Tavern, and I'm sure I will continue to talk about it. Double D will probably continue to talk about it. I'm sure DM James and DM Bloodworth will talk about it, and some of the other 5e commentators and OSR elitists like myself will continue to talk about it, at least until we can talk about whatever the next controversy is, which will probably be either racism, sexism, homophobia, or cultural consultants, or the fact that the fish in Dragonlance is racist. Have I made this any clearer, or have I further to confused you? Probably I have confused you even more. If you have any questions, let me know. We can always go over this again. Till next time, I have been the OGGM, your guide to all the tabletop role-playing game news, weather, and general internet nonsense. Remember, the three things are: gravity will always work, the electromagnetic spectrum exists, and Wizards of the Coast will do something weird and stupid. See ya! Like, share, subscribe.